Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. I am Dale, and I just wanted to have a conversation today because the world is getting a little bit crazy, and all the talk of like how crazy it's getting is like making people very unsettled, and that has an effect on people. And I want to get a little bit of a handle on it, mainly for anybody who can watch this, because there is a YouTuber that I came across years ago, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. Her name is Bailey Sarian, and I don't know how I first came across her videos, but she did something called Mystery Mondays, Makeup and Mystery Mondays, I think. And she is like she has been really fascinated with like true crime story, weird crime stories, unsolved ones and stuff like that. And but she's also a makeup artist. So what she would do is she would like do her makeup on screen while she's telling about these stories. And I think that's an awesome way of multitasking. It's hilarious. And especially for somebody to go on like raw with no makeup and then to go, and then to put it on, but to come on camera without any makeup. Like I've done some videos myself without makeup just to make sure that I'm not so freaking vain that I can't do it. But anyway, the point is Murdery Mr. Murdery Mystery and Makeup Mondays. I think that's what it was called. Well, I started watching it with my daughters because I thought they might like it too. So anyway, sometimes I flip back and forth between my YouTube channels that I watch videos on because I'll be on this one and then I'll be on my one like just by my regular name. And I have like different subscriptions of channels that I'm subscribed to. So I forgot that I was on my other channel while watching YouTube videos and I saw a Bailey Sarian video. And it was like, what can we all do? What can we do? And I noticed that there was like a million views on this. And I was like, holy crap. When I was watching her, I don't think she had a million subscribers. I think it was like in the hundreds of thousands. And that was awesome. But now she's got like 7.5 million subscribers. So her video was going out to lots of people. And I happened to be one of the people watching. And so it kind of inspired me to create a video on what it is that we can do in these times that are so uncertain. And the thing is that this stuff has been going on for all of eternity since like humans have been on Earth. I would assume that there's always some sort of like greed and corruption and things that are going on that most people don't participate in because most people are not willing to kind of like give their vessels over to a darker energy. And yet some people are because I think that we all are born with a purpose, and sometimes that purpose is to be to choose a path of darkness so that you can bring others into the light. Because the only way sometimes to get people to act in this world that seems like to be a world of duality and contrast, even in your own life, if you can imagine this, it's that you'll know that you have to change something, right? It's like this nagging thing that's going on in you. Like, I really need to eat better. I really need to reach out and call this person. I really need to do this thing. And then we don't do it. We don't do it. We don't do it until like somebody around us finds out that they have cancer or you get a diagnosis, some sort of negative diagnosis, and then that causes you to quit smoking or do whatever, like do this thing, initiate this change. And that's a world that we have an opportunity to move away from if we take back hold of our sovereignty, okay? And this is one of the problems, that you have to give up your sovereignty in order to survive in this world where money is a sort of this like it's this physical thing of an energy that has been taken over for I don't know, if you really take some time to think about what money is, then you would see how we don't really have to have it, okay? And it's like in the world that we're in now, we're all humans, okay? We all have the same hours of the day. And it's not fair that some people get paid way, way more than others for putting forth daily effort towards a thing, okay? And I don't understand why we are in such a caste system in this like free world. If that's what freedom means, is that you have the freedom to be a part of this like caste system, that you get to choose which caste section you want to be a part of. I don't think that that's freedom. I don't think that that's sovereignty. And like communism and socialism and things like that, people don't think that those work either. But I think in idealistic terms, it should work. If we like eliminated money from the whole thing, because listen, if I couldn't tell you what the difference, what the like real difference is between communism and socialism when it comes to like the origination of the term of it. But what I can tell you is that I was in the army, and I do believe that that is somewhat of a socialist society. And I thought it worked really well. It's that we were all working towards the same goals and towards the same mission, towards the same purpose, because we volunteered for it. This is where like socialism works because we volunteered for it. You couldn't just um, create a socialist society and everybody would be okay with it, right? It's almost like I do feel like we should have the option of like being in the capitalist market or one that is more geared around socialism where everything is more equal across the board. And people do not agree with me when I say that the army is, or like the military is socialist, is socialism. I don't even know if maybe it's more like communism. I don't really know. Um, because these are just words with definitions, and I don't really care about that. What I can tell you about it is what worked well and what didn't work well. And it's that, okay, so first of all, there a lot of choice was eliminated. Most all the choices were eliminated. And so it made getting the mission done very, very easy. It was like you show up at your reported time in your reported uniform, or else you get like your money taken away. If you didn't do what you were supposed to do, you would get put on extra details. So they would take your time away or your money away. But everybody starts out at a certain pay grade, and it's dependent on like I won't get all into that because that it's just unnecessary. But there's pay grades and you can look it up. You can research like what is the pay grade scale based on like how many years you've been in and what your pay grade is or like what somebody's pay grade is. So it's all out there for everybody to know. So there's basic pay that you get. Now, if you don't have a family or if you don't have a dependent, if you're a single soldier, then you live in the barracks. So you do not have to pay for your housing. Okay. So you have clothing and housing taken care of for you. Also, there's health insurance that you do pay a little bit into it. I think maybe for like your first year, but I don't think that you have to pay beyond that. But you always have health care available to you every day before you go to work. It's like you either show up for physical training, PT, or if you're not feeling well, then you go over to the aid station, which is where I worked. And so I would have to be there. It's like, but you still had to show up to work, even if you were sick, because you're going to get taken care of. Okay. It's like, that's kind of what I saw. I had tried other things in life. I had tried going to school for teaching. And I've said it many times in past videos, it didn't work out because my car flooded. Hurricane Isaac happened in Louisiana. We got rainwater up here in New York. And I had driven through this big, like, puddle of water. And my car flooded, even though other cars were going through it. And I did all the proper steps. Hang on. Okay. All right. I tried to pause it. I don't think I paused it, but I had to plug in my computer because it was the battery was running low. So Um, yeah, even the car ahead of me was the same car as mine. We both had Ford Tauruses. They made it through. I did not make it through. Okay. So this is like God's plans or whatever your animator, whatever you want to call your animator, the energy that animates the world around you has different plans for your life. And it doesn't matter. And it's like it would frustrate me so much because I've always pushed myself very, very, very hard in order to like keep going. It's like, okay, if this is possible, if I'm if I still have the ability and the energy to say yes to something, I'm going to keep saying yes to things, okay? Especially when you have an outcome ahead of you, like when you can see a finish line. And for me, that was my getting my teaching degree. So anyway, I had spent probably like $14,000 on college. And then they like my one teacher, she asked me to leave her class and come back the next year. It's like I didn't even want to be a teacher that much to want to stay in school that fifth year. What I wanted, I mean, I wanted to be with children to affect them positively, okay? And I knew like as a teacher, at least that would put me there, but I still was what I didn't like about teaching was that there are so especially in New York State, we've got a lot of extra rules and laws and things. And Hillary Clinton was in office at the time in New York State and all these different things. So there were parts of me that didn't feel on board with that. And that's where, okay, let me try to stick with a topic here because then I feel like I'm going to branch out into all these other things. But sometimes your intuition knows when a path is not going to work out for you, or it's that something else is working out for you. Okay. So um so I didn't end up finishing my teaching degree because I didn't think it was fair for the system for the teacher to be able to say, no, you can't stay in class. That should be up to me. I was paying that money. I had taken out the student loans for it and all that stuff. And then I joined the army, which that was very difficult, and it's because I've always been overweight, and it's just that's one of the old standards of the army. And that's the thing. It's like because they ensure your security, you have to meet a standard. You have to maintain that standard. And even though I was trying really, really hard, it was like the same type of thing that was going on with school. It's like I had to try a lot harder to try to get to that same end goal. Maybe not in school, it's like the same type of thing, but because I was trying to collapse a 5-year program into 4, it was making it harder for me. Plus, I was like working 2 jobs, babysitting. I had a Mary Kay business and all this other stuff. And this was all because I wanted to set myself up for success based on the financial world that we know of. Okay. So I did way more stuff than most people do when it comes to setting myself up for success. And and I went through more poverty than anybody that I know because of things that have happened. Like my teacher just saying, no, I don't want to make up the missed time with you because your car flooded. It's like, that's not fair. But I tried never to get just like overly pissed off about things and hold on to them. I was just like, okay, I'm just moving forward on to the next thing. And I thought that the army would be a great thing because if anything, if I could stay in anything until retirement, it was going to be that because there was all this transition. You're constantly moving from one job to another every couple of years. Um, and it's a support system. It's a support system where if you just follow the rules, you should be able to get by. And that was where I was trying to follow the rules, but because I was always struggling with my weight, it was like I would have to do extreme things to try to follow that rule. It's like the rules that they had because if you were overweight, they would send you to a nutritionist and you would take these classes. And I had already been doing way more. I already had way more knowledge about that because it was something that I had worked on for my whole lifetime because of whatever. So you really were taken care of, but you had to follow the rules. And that's the thing about like a society of why I think it's a socialist society is because everybody has to follow the same rules and you get the same rewards. You do not worry. It's like what I enjoyed so much about it was that we didn't really know who each other was, other than we all wore the same uniform. So somebody was just like a uniform, a name, and a patch, like a rank, what their rank was. Okay. And it differentiated us. And we knew exactly just by looking at a person how they were differentiated, but we didn't have that identity that was in like your clothing and the neighborhood that you came from. We were all located in the same place. And so that's what shows me that that type of society works. And this is where I can tell you to, if you want to figure out what to do with your energy right now, it is to start to fuse your local society back together again. Okay. You've got neighbors. I'm sure you've got neighbors. I'm sure you've got coworkers. Instead of going out there and looking at everybody else as the enemy, thing that you know that we all have in common from the advent of humanity is our emotions. We all have emotions in common and we all have them, I feel like, in similar ratios. But the thing that sets those emotions off is different. Okay. You are the same person, and yet you can walk into one space and feel insecure, and then you walk back into your home and you feel like it's your home. It's a place where well, and I can't even say that. You might not have security in your home. So I'm trying, I'm hoping that these are coming together in a way that makes sense. It's like in a society where there's not all this judgment being placed on each other, because, like, I'm talking about in our military society. It's like we all knew what we were getting paid. So if you did have a spouse or a dependent, then you did not have to live in the barracks. And then you were paid a certain amount for housing allowance. Okay. And then there would be like cost of living allowances that would go up per year as inflation would go up. So even that is accounted for. But this is all like government money, like the military is a government thing. And so that's kind of how they keep things in balance when it comes to the financial systems, is that they use it for what they need to do, right? So like wars create a lot of jobs, um because but the thing is like we shouldn't rely on war to create jobs. We should be there's so many different things that we can spin this out into. But what I want to say is that there are certain things that I have had to go through, um just because I like, even though I have all the financial literacy that I have, even though I set myself up for success, that's not the way it turned out. And I do believe that it was this path that my animator carved out for me so that I could clear the way for other people to show them how it's done, because I'm not one who's going to sit back and watch other people struggle. It's not going to happen, except sometimes, like, so that people will learn, when it comes to being a mother. It's I don't get involved when my kids are trying something new, or I don't try to project any of my thoughts or feelings onto them, because that's what most of the world will do to you. That's what most parents will do. That's what most people will do. Well, when you do that, just be careful, blah 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 blah. It's like I've done things for like years, and yet people will still think that they can give me advice on it. They're like, "Well, be careful about this." Like I had to make this 24-hour drive. I've done it like 42 times, and yet every time the people are not there with me, but they'll be like, "Oh, you better be careful about this, that, and the other thing." I'm like, "Yo, you haven't done it. Why do you think?" I wish we were better at identifying what we were really trying to say, or like speaking the truth. It's like that drive makes me nervous for you because I wouldn't want to have to do it. That's what people are really saying for me. And they're saying like, "I love you. Take care of yourself while you're there. I want you to return. I want you to return just the same as I'm seeing you right now." And it's like that uncertainty that makes people feel like, well, if they tell me to be careful, do you think that that's really what is like keeping me safe out there? Or do you think it's like my own self-awareness that's keeping me safe, my responsibility, my ability to respond to the things around me and to do it in a way that mitigates risk, okay? And that's what you have to do. You have to take responsibility and stop putting the blame on other people and saying like, well, if they hadn't have done that, then I could have gotten to work on time or whatever. It's like you have to take what works well and see how to weave it into your own world. It's like the parts of the military that did not work well are the fact that they always treat us like robots, okay? And they never give people time off. It's like even in your off time, you're not able to there's just when you're an NCO, a non-commissioned officer, and you have soldiers beneath you, you have to be responsible for them. So it's like you can't have a normal life. You can't just like drink whenever you want to on the weekends or your time off, because you might get called in for one of your soldiers and you have to report there, you know, in your leadership role. All right. So they take away all this freedom from you. And that's okay because you sign your life away to do this thing, right? It's like it might not feel okay to you, and you might throw a little hissy fit about it and complain and stuff like that. But the problem is, I want to explain to you why it is that veterans have such a hard time re-assimilating back into like American life. And all I know is American life because this is the one that I've lived, and I'm a veteran who has gone to war. And I would have to say that one of the times that I felt most alive and most authentic in who I was when I was deployed. And I would have to say that that's because it was a time when I felt like I had purpose, okay? And our purpose was not to go out and like shoot people. We weren't really at war. We were there more at a time during peace. It was like 2009 to 2010. And what we were supposed to be doing was spreading peace and saying, "Hey, we are here to help out," because our troops had come in after the British troops had been there. Because previously American soldiers had not been in the area that we were in, this like South Iraq, Basra, and like the tough stuff was going on in Afghanistan, which was not even really getting the coverage that it deserved. And it just the whole thing was all it's such a mess. All this like when did it even end? Do we still have troops over there? It's how we used to have like ticker tape parades and things like that in our history when soldiers would come back, and then Vietnam was a mess. Um it's just been I'm just going all over the place because My mind is a mess because the world is a mess. And what I'm trying to do is show you that we need to simplify things and we need to be purposeful. And this was the point of what I was saying about the reason. So I was a mother when I was deployed, but I only had my two sons at that time and they were very young. And this is kind of how I figured things might happen, is that when I got my deployment, it would be after I had kids. But I wanted to make sure that, I was hoping that I would get a deployment while the kids were young and they wouldn't remember it. And they don't, for the most part, they don't remember it. They were too young to remember. And because what you have to do is you have to keep your mind focused when you have kids, but you are like in a deployment zone. You have got to keep your mind focused on where you're at and you have to mitigate risk. And this is like in your normal walking, waking world, no matter where you are. Okay. But I think that we think that we're safer because we're under this delusion that there's like things out there, entities out there that are supposed to be there on our side. And it's like, for what? Insurance, you pay all kinds of insurance. Is it there for you when you need it? It's like when you freaking need it is when you have car repairs. So these are the real life things that we could start demanding, or that you can start as these businesses. So, okay, let me see if I can just wrap up what I was saying about the deployment stuff so I can get to actual real life things that you can do to help out in this current modern day, no matter where you are or who you are. So, we felt very much like we had a purpose because 24 hours a day we were in a deployment zone. You couldn't like you you couldn't separate yourself from it. There was no way you could separate yourself by like going to work out and these different things. Um and you had the illusion of like an identity in your own little tent space or your room space where you could have DVDs and stuff like that. But not everybody had that experience of deployment. Some people did, some people didn't. And but you're in purpose, on purpose. Okay. And then when you get back to the States, the purpose shifts and there's no real need for it anymore. It's almost like they're just trying to keep you busy all the time. But what that does is we're not robots and we need the opportunity to go back into our own identities, or else we don't feel purposeful in our own selves. And then it's like, that's when crazy things happen. That's how people have like PTSD and they never can get out of it. Because there's a part of us that wants to still be in the world of purpose, but not like in a PTSD way of like where things are being set off, but people are not properly brought back down out of that world to where they reintegrate into a place of purpose back stateside, or especially not when you get out of the military. And that there's like days where I just cry. It even makes me want to feel like crying, right? It makes me want to feel, yeah, it makes me feel like I want to cry right now, because it's like you don't understand why it works and why veterans like can't reacclimate to the regular world. It's because what happened is that when you want your sovereignty back after your days of like signing away your freedom are done, you come back into the regular world and there is no sovereignty. There is no sovereignty. There is no like, okay, I have this space of security. Like there was this thought that by being in the military, it would grant you better opportunities back in the civilian world, and it doesn't really do that. It might for some people, but not for most people. It's again, it's like this caste system of like based on whatever job you had in the military, can you come back out and like where they actually look at that as some experience? Because for me, that never happened. Like all of my leadership experience when I was 26 years old. I'm 43 now. When I was 26 years old, I was responsible for like $2 million worth of medical equipment, vehicles that I would have to do the PMCS, what is it? Preventative maintenance checks and services on. I was responsible for the lives of all the people that we went outside the wire with, right? It was like we were outside the wire almost every day that we were deployed. And then I come back into the civilian world and like I become a baker, and then an opportunity arises to be the bakery manager. And I was trying to say like, hey, look, I went and got a degree in hospitality management before I got out of the military to make sure that I could like hit the ground running when I came back out into the civilian world. And I was going to culinary school. I was like, and I've been to school for teaching. There was no better person who was prepared to be the bakery manager, and they declined. They were like, no, no, we don't think, we appreciate you throwing your name in the hat, but we're choosing this other kid over you. And because he had already like been in the company for a while, and he was in cahoots with the store manager because he would like tutor the store manager's son. And so, I don't really know if he was just playing favorites, but that sure is what it seemed like, and that sure is what everybody else would, talk about, because they're like, I would rather have you as the manager, because guess who had to like show him where everything was at and the systems and how they were run. Well, okay, I'm getting too far off into the deep end, into the weeds now. So let me just cut all that nonsense out, but tell you that the reason why you're not happy right now is because you're realizing that you have no sovereignty, you have no freedom, you have no individuality, you have no value other than to be used by the big systems that are out there. And the best thing that you can do is start to break those big systems, okay? Because they are steadily breaking you. If you have credit card debt, that is the one thing that you can stop paying on, to where they're not going to come and take your stuff, because you have to pay for the things that sustain your life, okay? That means your house, that means your utilities, and that means your food for your children, especially if you have children, all right? Those are the things that you have to pay for. But if you're all stressed out about paying your credit cards down, listen, I paid my credit cards for years and years and years. And because I would like keep getting us out of financial situations that my ex-husband had been putting us in, it was like setting me further and further behind, because he wouldn't take responsibility for his actions. And so that's part of the problem, is that like, what are you going to do? There's all these systems that you're supposed to honor. It's like I was trying to do the right thing by staying in the marriage for the kids, and because like the marriage itself wasn't all that bad necessarily, but I was just watching things, like it's like I was watching the water rise up and drown us, which eventually it did. It flooded, our house flooded. So yeah, my car got flooded in New York, my house flooded in Louisiana, and all of the stuff that I had saved from New York that I had intended on like using for my future, I had like packed it away. My parents brought it down to me and it all flooded. And so it was like I've had nothing but stories of how to learn how to detach, because I had no other choice. There was nothing, I mean, there was probably other choices, but I don't know. I'm not willing to take a cheap substitute over like really what one is supposed to do in life with the best moral compass. So anyway, I've tried to pay off my credit cards for years, and the interest, it gets crazy, and you know this. And so when it comes time to considering like a debt consolidation loan, which I couldn't qualify for because my credit score was, it wasn't terrible, but it was that my debt to income ratio was like too high. And so I couldn't get approved for a loan. So then what they have are these like credit recovery programs where you pay them a certain amount, but what they do is they negotiate for you on behalf of you, because you can try to do it on your own where you just stop paying for your credit cards and then it goes to a collections agency. And then you can try to work out a deal with them. But for me, I was like not comfortable with that situation. And I had approached this once before and signed a contract with a debt recovery program. But then I was with my second husband, which became my ex-husband, but we've gotten back together because really he was the one that was meant. But sometimes you got to go through your problems to see where you're your own problem, and you have to grow from it. But anyway, but he was like, I don't know if I would trust that. And so I ended up breaking that contract with the debt recovery program. And I wish I would have kept it, because then I wouldn't have had problems, but it doesn't matter. I don't regret anything. And I know that timing is always aligned based on the grander picture of what you're supposed to be doing on this earth. So I signed back up for it. And I'm wondering if I just kind of want to scrap this video, but I don't. I don't want anything to go to waste. So let me pause and think for a moment. Okay. So the point of using this debt recovery program is because they handle all the negotiations. So you'll get all these phone calls about credit card companies like calling you to say like, "Hey, you owe us money," and blah 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 blah. and they'll tell you, you just ignore it. And what you start doing is you pay money towards them. So they start basically like a savings account for you. So you're paying them on a regular basis. And um, as you don't pay for the credit cards, you just have to wait it out, because then the credit card will send that bill to a collections agency, and the collections agency will try to get the money from you. But what will happen is that the credit recovery program will work on your behalf with like the debt collection people to negotiate a term for you of repayment. And what you do when you initially sign on with these contracts is you agree that you pay the debt recovery program a certain amount. Okay. It's an amount that you're going to agree to. It might sound like a lot, but it doesn't matter. The whole process is still going to be less than if you have to pay your credit cards off for like years and years and years, and you have fluctuating interest rates. Okay. And that's part of the problem. Do you think that credit card companies feel guilty for raising your interest rates? Of course not. Of course not, because it's like some sort of automated system, and they're going to get theirs, right? They're like, here, you can have $10,000. We'll just loan it to you on this piece of plastic, and then you just pay us back for it, right? And it's like, if you had to pay them back in one lump sum for all that interest, it's like you don't mind doing it because it happens in small increments, but it will break you, and you pay them so much more than you originally paid for that product on the credit card, right? And so that's the thing, is people feel guilty for not paying the credit card off, not being, yeah, I feel totally like crappy that I could not pay off the credit cards and live credit free, but I sure fucking tried. I tried as much as I could. It's like, I always say that try isn't a real thing. It's because it's either you do it or you don't. And I couldn't do it. I had like failed at being able to pay the credit cards off. But why does that make me feel better anyway if I would have been able to pay it off? It's like, just because I want to be good on my word and my commitments that I make. But what I would rather do is pay these people to get me out of this situation, and that they handle it. Then if you have to go to court or whatever, they have lawyers, and that's kind of what you're paying for, is that if the situation, they're basically on your side for it. So it's hard because we look at them as being like the sharks too, just like the credit card companies are, but they're not. They're telling you what their fees are right up front. Okay. So anyway, that is the government bailouts. They bailed out the banks, right, during like 2009, 2008, whatever, when the market crashed. And it's like, did they ever give you a break in your interest rates? Did they ever say like, hey, we're going to give you a year of interest free? We'll take away your interest payments for a year on your credit card so that you can catch up, since we were bailed out, right? That never happened. That never freaking happened. All right. So we the people have the power, and if you want to break a system, then you need to figure out how. And that is one of the ways to break the credit card systems, as they have broken our economy and they have broken our families. All right, so stop paying your credit cards. That's just one option if you want to. Okay, I don't recommend like stopping on payments for things that you need where it might get repossessed, like your car or something like that. You need to do these things responsibly. You're not just trying to go out there and be like just a crazy rebel. Remember when people were starting fires and throwing bricks and doing all this crazy stuff when what was the group that formed Black Lives Matter movement? It's like th- everything always starts as a good thing, as like this powerful movement to help a group of people, and then people will like jump on that bandwagon because they can see it as an opportunity for their own agenda. Okay, so that's why like you need to just help out in small spaces. And you have to start at home. You have to start in your own life. You have to claim your sovereignty again. Okay. And so that is one small thing that you can do. If you are a business owner, you can offer opportunities for families that want to work together, spouses that want to work together. You can offer bonuses and things like that. There are so many different things as a business owner that you can do. You know how all these businesses are making people pay for bags right now? Like, if you work for a company where the company is charging customers for bags, how about you suggest to that freaking business that they eat the cost of that because they have customers coming in? It's like there are so many things that we can do for ourselves um to help out on a larger market and we just don't try. There's so many people that complain about like paying for bags. It's like the complaints don't go anywhere. You have to make the energy go somewhere besides just like words out of your mouth. Let me pause again. Okay. This video is long and scattered, and I do have some poignant things to say. So I am not going to put it in this video because I want it to be more succinct and I want it to be shorter so that if people actually watch it, um, then they might watch a shorter video. It might get the message out to more people. So I'm going to leave this one here right now. But if you listen to my little, you know, it's basically like I'm trying to tell you things from my experience because I know that you're going through similar things and I want to give you permission to take your sovereignty back and know that there are ways to do it, okay? And you're not a terrible person. I'm not a terrible person for getting into credit card debt for like the way that my life took, all right? We cannot control our circumstances at all times, but we can control our responsibility, our ability to respond to those things. And that's what I think responsibility is. You can't just like put your head in the sand and think that the problems are going to go away and that somebody else is going to solve it for you. You do not want somebody else's solution for it. You want to know that you are doing your part to create solutions, okay? Other people created the problems of credit cards, but they offered it to you on a silver platter. And it's so easy to get a credit card. Is it real easy to get a mortgage though? Not anymore. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to leave it off at that. I love you. Bye.